Hi, I'm Commissioner Rob Gelder, and welcome to this episode of Commissioner's Corners. We will get an inside look at the Port Gamble Ride Park, so stay tuned. So we're now joining you from the flight deck, and joining me is Mark Shorn, who is with the Port Gamble Forest Heritage Park Stewardship Committee, as well as being a founding member of the Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance West Sound chapter. So Mark, thanks so much for being part of the program today. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for inviting us.
So this is pretty darn exciting.
Oh, that's great.
This has been a long time coming. So for our viewers who may not be familiar with the Port Gamble Ride Park, how did the idea come about?
So first of all, what is a ride park? It's kind of like a ski slope for bicycles. That's the way I'd put it. It started as a couple dudes just building trails around here. And I remember one trail I was working on and people would stop and say, "Hey, I'd like to help. I'd like to help." So I started taking names and telephone numbers, and we had our first trail work party and met at the barn, and 50 people showed up.
Wow.
So that was what started the whole Evergreen West Sound chapter. Many of us went to Duthie to ride, and Duthie was this bike park over in Issaquah, and we thought, why not do it here?
Right.
So that's where it started.
That's cool. So it started there, and I know it was part of the overall Port Gamble Forest, actually the Kitsap Forest and Bay campaign, right? But yet it's its own separate acreage. But how did you get the word out about the project, the campaign, and get people excited about contributing and being involved?
We did a lot of different trail work parties and getting together at breweries and having fundraising events. And we had a Biketoberfest every year where we had 2,000 riders come out. And the whole thing has just blossomed over time. And it's always amazing now when I look at the parking lots, they're just full of people. So
yeah, it's almost hard to get a parking spot to begin with. So I would say maybe it was really kind of organic, right? And that you did that word of mouth, you got that excitement, and there's nothing like the tangible building of a trail to get that energy going. The coalescing that the community did around this project, not just the ride park, but the entirety of the Port Gamble Forest. So would you have any advice or counsel for another community that might be thinking about kind of embarking on a similar type of project?
Yeah, the thing that I've been impressed with and have learned is you really have to have a coalition. To do this entire park, it took people from the environmental community, it took horsemen, it took bicyclists, it took the tribes, it took the county government, thank you for that. And it really took an entire community to build this project and make it work.
I totally agree. If we wouldn't have the entirety of the acreage without that coalition, right? But on some level, I would think that there's an upside for the property kind of being its own distinct 160 acres. Because the uses on mountain biking is a little bit different than someone riding a horse or hiking. So maybe it could help potentially just avoid some of that future conflict.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that, I think the ride park has done a good job and will in the future as it gets more and more utilized. It takes the pressure off some of the other trails so that you can have bikers here, horse people over here riding their trails. I think it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, with 3,500 acres, there should be something for everyone. So is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would want to make sure our viewers understand about really the history of getting started? Because this has been well over a decade in the making, right?
Yeah, it took a whole village to build this, and there's a lot of people that spend a lot of volunteer hours to go after fundraising grants and working together to create this special thing. And I think we're going to be lucky in 50 years we have this 3,500 acre park and this special ride park here. It's only going to get better over time.
So you're going to come out 50 years from now for the celebration ride?
Yeah, I'll be doing the Maverick.
Okay, perfect. That sounds good. Thank you for being part of the program.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Joining me now is Brian Tustison with the Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance. Brian, thank you so much for being part of the program. I appreciate it. So can you tell our viewers a little bit about how the Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance got involved in the project?
Sure. I want to say about 4 years ago, Mark Shorn got a hold of myself through Evergreen HQ, and they were looking for somebody to help do a proof of concept and help put together a design for a ride park in Port Gamble. I got to come out and start walking around in this cool section of forest and did a bunch of brainstorming and came back with a design.
What is the Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance?
The Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance is a statewide mountain bike advocacy organization. We're doing advocacy to help maintain access to existing trails and educate people on trail etiquette, learn trail skills, that sort of thing. We were one of the largest statewide mountain bike advocacy groups in the country.
So in terms of this design here in the Port Gamble Forest, how did it come about?
It was cooperative effort, largely working with the chapter, really trying to think about how we can develop a park out here that serves all user groups. The goal was to really make use of this land in a way that you can bring your kids out, and this can be one of the first places that they start building skills, and they can progress up to anywhere they want to stop, and including up to like very advanced level stuff behind us that is colloquially known as the pro line.
You know, I don't spend a lot of time on the bike, so there'd potentially be something for me if I wanted to go out, get a mountain bike, I could come out here basically and start to gain and build my skills.
Absolutely. Within the ride park, we have a handful of beginner trails. If you want to learn how to jump, we've got very beginner-friendly jumps that aren't going to scare you or aren't likely to injure you.
Does the land in some way kind of speak to the type of trail that you want to create on it?
Yes, definitely. I think that takes a rider's perspective. When you've ridden a bunch of trail, it gets easier to see how you want to use terrain. You'll pick a hill and just say, well, I want to start there and weave through these trees. It's a pretty organic process, and that it's a lot of fun doing design work most of the time.
A nice blank canvas upon which to work and try to create something for everybody.
Yeah.
So you go from the design and then you start to create the landscape. So how was the construction of the trails approached? Was it done by professionals, volunteers?
Our construction process out here largely driven by staff builders because of the nature of the terrain. We did a lot of our rough shaping with mini excavators, and then we brought community volunteers in for work parties. So far, volunteers have contributed about 5,000 hours of work out here. On top of that, we've been fortunate enough to have some local contractors that have donated some larger equipment for a couple of our bigger projects to help expedite moving bigger quantities of dirt. The high-level concept work, I worked with Mark Shorn, Kelly Campo, and our trails director, Mike Westra, and we did a lot of work on maps using ArcGIS to put together a rough concept that would allow us to fit things appropriately into the space, and then I spent a bunch of time ground proofing it and adjusting corridors as necessary, looking for wet spots, figuring out any place where it wasn't practical. And once we got everything permitted through the geotechs and all that, then the fun started.
Yeah. But from the start of construction to opening, how much time did it really take to construct the park?
About 7 months for this, and then we took a break over the summer, and then we came back. So we're probably into this about 12 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are then conditions you really want for kind of the best construction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Too dry doesn't work. You want a certain amount of moisture.
We definitely. It's easy to have too much moisture, but too dry is a bigger problem. And fire danger is always a concern for us during the summer.
If you're using motorized equipment.
Yeah, motorized equipment, chainsaws, anything like that. We're absolutely, we have to be mindful of that. And so we tend to build lower elevation stuff in the winter, and then as the snow melts, we move high elevation.
As we've been standing here talking, I've been seeing any number of people riding by.
Yeah.
What do you think will be the draw to, or what does this park mean to the region and the local community?
this is going to be a place where you can come and hang out with your friends or your family. We have a bunch of space to do programming. Like once again this year, the Evergreen Mountain Bike Fest is going to be held here, and we fully expect to fill up all the parking in town.
That's awesome.
I'm excited for it.
And so, Brian, thank you very much for being part of the program. I appreciate it. For our viewers that want to know more, we'll make sure that we have some links to the Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance website, as well as information for the Kitsap Forest Heritage Park. Maybe you've been inspired and you'd like to go out and get a mountain bike and try developing your skills in just a very idyllic setting. And for me personally, this has been a project that has been a long time in the making. As I look back over my tenure with Kitsap County, this has been the Kitsap Forest and Bay campaign, the coalition, everybody that's been involved has created and coalesced around a vision, this ride park being a very big part of it and of that active recreation that is in our community, along with everything else that these 3,500 plus acres in the Port Gamble Forest can support. So I appreciate everyone's contribution to making it happen. And thank you for being part of the program. And together we can make some really cool things happen in Kitsap County. So keep being invested, and we'll see you around. Thanks. That was my swan song. I'm out.
Love it. Love it. Thank you.
Thank you.